I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I want to thank Bianca for recording the meeting. She got me there. And can you folks see my screen? Great, thank you. Well, happy April, everybody. As you can see, it is just me today. Christy is off doing the work in the state capitol, which is everything I can ever hope for and ask for. And so today we're going to have a little bit of a shorter meeting, but lots of great information coming through. And so for those of you who don't remember me or were not able to attend the last meeting, my name is Zil Joyce Dixon Romero, and I am one of the new co-leads of this group, along with Christy King, who is a fabulous facilitator and is joining us yet again this year moving forward. I'd also like to just do a brief moment to shout out Bianca, who is our new open network representative who will be helping us in the facilitation of this group, as well as we'll be doing a lot of the communicating with you about the agendas that will be coming from us and the links of the meetings that will be going forward. And so if you've got any questions for us, make sure to just drop those in the chat as we move forward. And Bianca, do you want to say anything here real quick just about yourself?
Hi, you've seen me around. I've been with Open with the network now for a year. So just transitioning a little bit of our responsibilities, as you all know, we've had some staff changes over the last few months. So yeah, I'm just covering the NRTs now. I'm kind of main support for all NRTs. So yeah, I'm just here to support you all in any way that I can. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Bianca. So this meeting, I'd like to kick us off with a little bit of a welcome and who's on the call. I know that I've been with the group for over a year, but I'm still a little bit new to some of the faces that are coming in. So I'll go ahead and I did an icebreaker question, and I'll start us off with, hello, I'm Zil. And the last great book that I read was called The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. And it was really very interesting about rating things on a 5-star scale. I think it's fascinating. But if anyone wants to hop on and just say who they are and what was the last great book you read or movie you watched, you can drop it in the chat as well if that's what you're feeling.
Hi everybody. I know it's a small group. I'm Jessamine. I'm from ONEP, based at NYU in New York. And I just wanted to share this book. It's probably backwards, but it says The Girl with the Louding Voice. My boss, some of you may know Dr. Judy Haber, she actually recommended it to me. It's a very interesting read. I'll put it in the chat as well. Thanks.
Great, thank you. See, I'm getting new book recommendations from this. That's really the reason I did this icebreaker question. Anyone else want to hop off and say who you are and where you're from? We got some in the chat, I see.
Morning, everybody, or afternoon, actually. Don Weaver. I'm rereading one. It's called Switch. It's about making change, which they sort of put in 3 different pieces of herding the elephant, controlling the rider, and developing the path. And it's just been, I hadn't read it in a while, so it was kind of fun to go back and reread it.
That's great. Sounds like a great book. It's on Y list. Oh, great. Anyone else want to take a shot at the icebreaker? All righty, well then I will, we got Casey from Community Catalyst in DC, and she recently just finished Laziness Does Not Exist and would definitely recommend. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that this meeting is being recorded, because I am definitely not starting my book reading list for the next couple weeks at all by using this question. So thank you all for being here and contributing, and I hope that puts a little positive spin into our meeting today. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our rundown, today's plan of discussion. We're going to do a quick emphasis on the Super Health Equity NRT foundations. We're going to go ahead and then move on to some of the shared agreements between the health equity's purpose and run down the JEDI statement one more time. We're going to go ahead and recap some of the goals from the last meeting that were shared and help fostering our 2022 discussion. We're going to look at the goals for the upcoming months ahead. And then we are going to do, because there are quite a few new people based on who was here at the last meeting, into some of the respective education, accountability, and integration groups that we can help foster some works there. And then finally, we'll wrap up with a look ahead at the Health Equity Take 30, and then hopefully do some staff updates at the end. And if there's a little bit of time, we can maybe do some roundtable discussions about what's happening in your organizations and see how the health equity discussions are moving in your areas of expertise. So moving on first, we're just going to talk about just what Health Equity Super NRT is. I really like to start the meetings off this way, just to have a good baseline for everybody. Health Equity Super NRT is the umbrella group comprised of representatives from all the different subcommittees, NRTs, ROC, NOC, CBIs, open membership, all trying to feed back in the decision-making body of open. And our function is to make things more equitable, integration of equity into open activities and identifying opportunities for the health equity within all of the open network. And I hope is that with ourselves as well, taking back these health equity ideas, proposals, and discussions, and making our own organizations more equitable as well. We do this through the 3 education, integration, and accountability subgroups, as well as our larger discussion ourselves. So thank you all for being here. And then as we just keep going with some more of our housekeeping stuff, we talked about the JEDI statement last time we were here, but I just wanted to bring it up for a minute as, me, Christy, and some of the open representatives discussed it, and this was what we were going to stick with for this next, 6 months. We always try to continue to be evolving and thinking about the information that we're producing. But this was the baseline that we were talking about. So it is a little bit of a lengthier statement, so I'll leave it on the screen for just a second or two. But I just wanted to let you know that we all have taken a look at it, and this is going to be sort of our North Star for the year, or at least the next few months, about commitments to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion as we look into the broader systems of the network moving forward. And I want to thank you all for, helping us work through this discussion as we have made this more finalized at the end of last year, and as we have been able to guide on our continual reflection of it. So before we move on, does anyone have any questions about the JEDI statement? I know that there was some questions last time we brought it up about some of the language, but I just wanted to take a second to see if anyone had any questions. All righty. So then I'm going to move into what we did in our last meeting, and we talked about goals for 2022. So me and Christy worked out with quite a few of you about the ideas and the mindset of what we wanted to do moving forward into 2022, and then wanted to throw it all at this group to see about what would be some of the more tangible ideas that we could work towards. So this was just our rough list from last meeting about recruitment goals, education, evaluating the equity through the network, and preparing health equity works for 2022. We had a really great discussion on how we could integrate more youthful energy into the network, whether that be through finding new internship opportunities, developing our health equity discussions into the workforce pipeline discussions, building better tools. All of these things were brought up. And so over the past couple of weeks, me and Christy have had some discussions about what was said. We took notes from the last meetings and have identified, hopefully, the broader themes that were discussed in the last meeting to hopefully guide goals and activities moving forward in 2022. So I'm going to go ahead and do a rundown for each subcommittee on education, accountability, and integration of the goals that we identified. And then we're going to stop at the end of each slide to see if anyone has any discussion about these goals, and if there's something specific that you think needs to be removed or added, because we really want to make some of these goals a little bit more tangible for the next few months in hopes that people will be able to do actionable items and that we can work more towards that health equity fostering. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the education group, not just because it was first, but because it was something that we talked a lot about at the last meeting. So 2 to 3 goals for each subgroup. This one for education, we identified the 2 big ones that were discussed. The first being health equity works. We need a demonstration of tools provided by the network. We really want to help, take those tools that have been built and bring them out to our respective networks, and then using research, direct bullet points, social media to amplify oral equity outcomes, and that'll hopefully flow out into internship opportunities. So when we talk about health equity works, it's a lot about demonstrating our research, demonstrating what the open network has, and hopefully being able to educate within the network or out of network as well. The second is host at least 2 Take 20s, 30s, 60s. Let's be real, it could be a Take seminar at this point about what health equity is. And so we're fortunate that our first one is going to be talking about the health equity curriculum that Stacy has been developing over the past few months that will be hosted on Open's new platform. And so we're really looking forward to her discussion of that. That will be on April 26th. And I'm proud to say, look, we already set a goal and we're already getting to start it and finalize it, and it isn't even the end of April yet. And we're also going to be looking to find health equity best practices, share them with universities and schools to help us grow and reach that younger workforce pipeline. So a lot of the education is not just internal. It looks like there was a lot of interest in doing external education within our own respective groups and as well with younger folks. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here because I feel like there's going to be quite a bit of discussion on the education factors before we get into integration and accountability. Don, I see your hand.
Yeah, thanks. So I just had a question back, and I think it was in December and January. Stacy asked for feedback on a lot of the tools and elements that might be included in the curriculum. And I think we were supposed to have some follow-up meetings, and I may have missed it in my emails, but I'm not sure that I ever heard back because I did have some concerns. It was an interesting compilation of materials, but as I viewed them, they didn't seem to be consistent with what at least we're being coached to do for all of our presentations. And I guess it's now known as micro learnings. They say what people are finding is that folks have been sitting in front of the computers too long or don't want to sit in a session. So it's sort of, a topic that's in a short piece, and many of the pieces had some great information, but you would almost take an hour to get probably what were, 5 or 10 minutes of hot bullets. And I didn't know where that has evolved. So if we're presenting it, maybe it's already done, but I did take the time to do the reviews and submitted them. I don't think I got a summary of what we were doing. And my concern is that we start with something that is short and sweet and is good, as opposed to having it more comprehensive, but having people wade through it and say, oh, golly, that. So I just didn't know where we were with that.
Sure. Well, hopefully I can at least provide some clarification on this, is that there was a period of time where Stacey was accepting feedback on, the curriculum that she was compiling. But also I want to keep in mind that the curriculum is going to be done through a series of functionally webinars that will be then hosted on the open curriculum interface is the best way I could describe it. It's like a learning management system. And so what the Take 30 will be about is a call for more presentations, as well as a call for reviews on the curriculum, as trying to get more information and intel on the curriculum that she's developed. And then we're going to hopefully put that on the learning management system. And so I don't want to speak for Stacy. I don't want, about getting back to you on an email or whatever that might be, but I'm sure that your input was at least taken into consideration, as was many other individuals who provided feedback on the curriculum in December of last year.
That's helpful. Just as a helpful feedback, at least from me personally, I think it's always good if people do respond, to at least get back and say, we're putting that into it, and our next step is such and such. It was almost as if there was a push to get it done before the end of the year. Then there was a realization that wasn't going to happen. So it was a couple minutes months or weeks extended. And then I just hadn't heard back. So this helps clarify. And to the extent that feedback is helpful, I think if you're asking of people's time, it's helpful to get wanting to let you know what the next step is. So.
Right. And like I said, I can't speak for Stacy, but I'm sure there was some, there definitely was some sort of review that happened. And again, the health equity curriculum, this Take 30 will be in part just developing, this is what the learning management system will be about. This is what our goal is to hopefully be putting on the health equity curriculum. And so I think there is still even some discussions now about what will be in those different, series, webinars, et cetera, that will be on the management system. And we always appreciate a lot of the feedback that comes to that.
Dawn, I've listed as a next step to ask maybe Stacy because I know exactly what you're talking about. I think I was around for those conversations, and you are right. I don't think we've received anything. And Zeal is also correct as well. The team has kind of taken that information a little bit and is kind of running with it, but I can ask Stacy to do a follow-up general email of just some, high-level information on where we are with that. And so I'll make sure it's the next step.
I think that would really be helpful. And it was not being critical. It's just, I know everybody had a lot of things going on. And it appeared to, from my perspective, to be a fire sale that needed to be done very quickly. And then it extended the time and then just hadn't heard anything. So I think it would be helpful to everyone who did take the time to just get a high level piece, just so that we all understand and can be supportive of the next steps.
Of course. And like I said, just moving forward, I'm hopeful that the Take 30 at least will be somewhat helpful in not only for our group getting to see at least parts of the health equity curriculum that are going to be demonstrated, but also being able to take the time to say, hey, I'm excited about the next steps. And if we can look at the interface that comes with the learning management system, that we can be able to take those back to our respective organizations and our groups, even within the open network. And I also was a bit of a part of the fire sale of getting information. And so I'm sure there's just some feedback that needs to come through down the pipeline. But thank you for your comments, Don. And so does anyone have any other comments about sort of the goals and activities that we see coming from the education subgroup, hopefully in the next couple weeks, months, et cetera? Right. Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next group, which is integration. And again, I'm going to take the time to say that these are goals that we discussed as a larger group, and that they don't have to be set in stone. They are not the end all be all on goals and activities that you have to do by the end of 2022 or anything like that. It's just, these are what we discussed as a larger group, and that we hope that will be able to guide you in your subcommittees moving forward over the next few months. And hopefully that will help point you in the direction of doing bigger and larger goals and bigger and larger activities if you so want them. So integration is the next one, which is, we talked about hosting shared meetings with key oral health stakeholders, including students and prospective members, to support collaborative strategies around health equity. As well as we want to work with other formal leaders in the groups as, NRTs, ROCs, NOCs, to integrate health equity materials. And so integration is a bit of a trickier one of the three, because integration is not only talking about what we're doing in this group, but it's ways that we can integrate health equity curriculums, assessments, ideas in our own respective workplaces, inside our other ROC, NOC, NRT groups, and looking for ways to find collaborative strategies around health equity that we can bring back to this group. It's always that that cycle of, we see a problem, we find ways to fix the problem, we have to integrate new solutions, we find a new problem. That sort of going back in a circle. And so integration, we always love new ideas on how to integrate health equity within our groups, not just ones that we are affiliated with and tangentially to open, but our own respective communities as well. Does anyone have any questions, comments, thoughts on integrations, goals and activities direction for right now? Alrighty, well then I don't hear or see any. So then I'm gonna go ahead and move on to, this was supposed to be accountability. Oops, that's a typo on me, everybody. This one is supposed to be accountability. Sorry about that. But this is accountability's direction, and it is evaluating equity through the network, working to include more hubs or groups to tie in our works across the network, and then looking to do more discussions about why we are here. Spend a certain amount of time bi-monthly discussing key questions like, why am I here? Why is this the equity journey important to me? How can I do better to learn from others and advocate in the best way? So this is, again, accountability. I'm actually just gonna quickly fix this real quick so that it's not throwing people off. I definitely didn't spell that right, but that's okay. So does anyone want to talk briefly about their thoughts on the accountability goals and activities for 2022? Do you feel that these are good? Do you feel that these are not representative of what we talked about last week? Do you feel that we need to be spending more time discussing accountability or less? Thoughts? I'll let you all sit with the questions for at least a minute and see if there's any discussions that you feel need to be raised about this. Alrighty, so I don't see any right now, which I can use as like a transition springboard point. If we have more discussions or more ideas about this, we can talk about them. But I wanted to sort of share this all on one screen. So these are all of the goals that we talked about put together on one screen. And the ones that are highlighted in the big red boxes are the ones that we are working on either in this month or in the next couple of weeks, and including but not limited to this meeting. So as you can see, as we are hosting the Take 30 with Stacy on April 26th, it's highlighted, as well as I wanted to, box up the second point of accountability and take this time to talk about, why are we here? What is this group doing? Why is the health equity journey important to you all as a group? Because at times, as we talked about last month, sometimes it can feel like we are keeping others accountable within our own organizations, but not necessarily talking about why we continue to do the equity journey, why we continue to advocate for others. And going back to something that Don said in the last meeting, that there's always that, survey that's supposed to come out at the end of each meeting about, our thoughts on keeping each other accountable, but having actual discussions about those are also very important. So I'll give everyone just a second to kind of sit with all of the goals and activities. And if you want to spend some time on the discussion, happy to do so now.
Zil, just a quick question. Are these goals and activities specifically for this working group, or are they for open as a network of which this working group helps?
These are for this working group. These are specific for this working group. And then when we get a little bit further in the meeting, I'll talk about last year, as many of you will remember, we had subgroups, subcommittees that worked within this group. And so these are going to be the goals for those subgroups moving forward this year. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's, the plan for those moving forward. But yes, these are specific to this subgroup, this committee, the Super Health Equity Super NRT, this group.
And I asked that as I was rereading the integration one. It seems to me, although this is a great group, as we're trying to use open wide as activities, if we're hosting a shared meeting with key oral health stakeholders, that really is an open wide effort, not just a subset of open. And I just was trying to figure out how we tie that part together. I know you probably have it at NRHA, we have it at NAC. You know, how do you do something with a group that's sort of focusing on that, but make sure that it's, in our case, network wide?
Right. Well, I can at least speak to some of my experiences that I've had, not only just being a part of this group, being a part of the rural NRT, being, tagging on as a fly on the wall in some of the other groups as well, is that as we host, meetings with key rural health stakeholders in our own respective groups, that's kind of what I envision the integration is doing, is you're having those conversations about strategies about health equity, and you're integrating some of the ideas that we are talking about here and the health equity curriculum that we developed here, the health equity audit and assessment that we developed last year with other people. And it's integrating the conversations that we're having with X partner, Y partner, and using that to go and sort of utilize the tools that we've already built, as well as looking at, in my example, right, I sit with the rural NRT as well, integrating, hey, we did this health equity assessment last year. Maybe we should talk a little bit about this at the rural NRT and move that in that direction, bringing up more conversations about health equity. Does that help answer that question? Okay. So does anyone else have any questions? That was a great question, Don. That really was. Does anyone have any questions about these activities and goals? Okay. So hearing none for right now, and please feel free to hop into the conversation if you do. I'd like to take a moment just to say that we know that there are some new members here, and some of this might be confusing about what the subcommittees do. And so the subcommittees take the goals and activities that we've outlined as a larger group and try to execute them more fully. And so during the next meeting, we're going to talk about assigning or signing up for committees like we did last year. You are free to stay with the same committee that you are in. You are free to move. It's just that now we've developed more goals for 2022. There will be some more tangibles that we'll want to actually go through the motions of doing, and we would like people to be a part of those, and kind of keeping those ideas on track. So if you're new to the group, go ahead and shoot me an email and say, hey, listen, I know you talked about subgroups today. I'd like to really be a part of those moving forward. And I'll be happy to talk with Christy about which group needs space, but tell us if you're like, I'm really dedicated to or really into the goals of the accountability group. I'd love to sit with that one. And we'll start to work more towards having those subcommittee meetings moving forward. And at the end of the tail end of these meetings. Alrighty, so that's pretty much it on goals and activities for this month. I'm gonna take one last shot if anyone has any questions. Okay, moving forward, just to do some quick updates. I'm gonna ask if there's any staff updates that you'd like to talk about. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I lost my page when you have 1,000 tabs up, but we are, for those of you who have not been a part of the webinar series, we have a webinar series coming up next week on the 20th. Well, that's Wednesday the 20th at, I can give you the time, just a second. I have lost, it's at 3 p.m. and that is Eastern Standard Time, as well as we also have open member orientation, which is at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is for new, old veterans of the network to kind of come share. I encourage veterans to come in, seasoned network members. It's a good way to kind of connect with the new network members and kind of share your story. I do a bit of a formal presentation in a sense of like giving background and context of who Open is, as well as just kind of allowing space for us to connect and just, again, sharing those stories. And let me see if there are any takes that are happening. At the moment, nothing is coming up on my calendar for takes. So I think that is all that we have going on. Again, you will be getting more information soon on registration for our mid-year, which will be in July. So if you haven't seen those dates, save the date. That is July, I know, 11th through the 13th. That will take place in St. Louis. So be on the lookout. There has been, I believe, already some information through creating connections, and you'll be receiving more information soon, more than what we've already sent out. So I believe that's all I have for updates.
Great, thank you so much. And so everyone, I'm going to go ahead and take us off the share screen here, bring us back into the Brady Bunch style if we can. Like I said, everybody, this is going to be a bit of a shorter meeting. Usually these meetings run between an hour and a half. That's usually our target goal. But like I said, this was really more of a recap of last month's goals and telling you about the direction we are heading in with these goals. And so you will see some follow-up from me and Christy about what's going to be happening next month. But mainly the big thing, we encourage you to take a look and broadcast that there will be a Take 30 on April 26th that will cover the health equity curriculum and the learning management system. And then moving forward past that, on our next meeting, which will be May 10th, at the same Tuesday, May 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern time, we will discuss more of the subgroups and more of the tangible and deliverable goals and activities we'd like to see moving forward into 2022. And so before I, give us the whole, giving you time back today, spiel, I'm going to ask if anyone wants to share some, stories about how they've seen the health equity integration work happening in their organizations, and then we'll wrap up the meeting. All righty. Well, then I will go ahead and just give us the whole spiel of giving you 30 minutes back into your day. And we look forward to seeing you all at the Take 30 at the end of the month. And that we look forward to seeing you on May 10th, 2 p.m. for our next meeting. Thank you, everybody. And Bianca, can I grab you for